Today is December 18th, 2024, and I'm Meg Hunt with the Upcountry History Museum. We're here today to talk about Mayberry Park and Meadowbrook Park history with one who has not only lived that history, but also has helped make the foundation of that history stronger. So let's get started. For the record, please give us your full name and where you live.
Mary Duckett. I live in Wingville, 29601, about a rock throw from here.
Let's go back in time just a little bit and talk about your childhood. Were you born in Greenville? Did you grow up in the southern side or
I
west?
grew up in the southern side, but I was born in Spartanburg County, a little area called Inner South Carolina, which is becoming popular now. When you used to go in the Woodruff, you had to go across the bridge. And I used to say everybody there was some kin to me, even half of the white folks. So that used to be a joke when I was a young girl.
What did your parents do?
My mother was a maid. My father worked at the dust mill on Hudson Street. If you know what a bridge is, it's out, so everybody know. Just as you go across the bridge, there used to be a dust mill there. And so my father worked there.
Is that the job? Did that bring you to Greenville County from Spartanburg County?
No, here in Greenville.
Right, but when you moved from Spartanburg to
down to Greenville, yes.
Where did you go to school?
Sterling High School. I'm a graduate of Sterling High School.
What memories stand out from those high school years for you?
Oh, wow. Sterling, when I was in Sterling, I graduated from Sterling. It was somewhat the equivalent of graduating from college now, or at least the first couple of years. I walked to school. I grew up on West Washington. It was West Washington Road then, where Legacy School is. And I walked from there to Sterling High School practically every day, because the bus fare was 10 cents and things were a little tough in the 50s and 60s.
So when did...
One second, I'm sorry. Can you shift your scarf a little? It's just hanging on one side. Yeah.
How's that?
There we go.
Hey, thank you.
So when did you graduate from Sterling?
1958.
What did you do after high school?
Well, I started working at the Harlem Theater, which was the only black theater in the city ever. As a matter of fact, on Hudson Street. My first job was 1958 at the Harlem Theater, my first job.
What, did you just do a little bit of everything there, or did you run the...
Well, I won't say everything at first. I started part-time, and then I think, but I know that Mr. Joe Gibson saw something in me that I didn't know was in me at the time. He taught me business and how to be an entrepreneur. So I learned everything about the theater, including becoming one of the first projectionists in the state of South Carolina. I learned I was a projectionist. Matter of fact, they had to stretch through to him and write her up there. So, yes.
So making history all the way back in 1958?
Well, sometimes you don't know it's history. You don't know it's history.
So you learned more about the business side of things, more about entrepreneurism. What happened for you next?
Well, I met a gentleman named Cornell Blakely. We were doing advertisement for laundrette, the first black laundrette that came to Green Avenue. Randall Croft opened it up. And we started talking, and I had a sister that was singing with the choir, church school choir, and she had did some solos, and he heard her, and he said, "Oh, we need to record her." So I stayed at the theater maybe about another year. Then Cornell and I opened the Garner up.
Then that was
Garner Motel and
Motel.
Restaurant.
Yep.
Yeah. It had been closed for quite some time. So we had some backers that came in and we were able to rent it. And so I started that area of my life.
And where was that motel located?
It's laid on front. It's out on Furnace Road, like you're going into Bellmead. Well, you say Garner. Everybody knows say Garner Motel and Restaurant, because at that time, see, blacks were not allowed to live in motels and hotels. So a group of blacks had gotten together, I think it was headed by Dr. Gandy, and built a motel and hotel and restaurant, swimming pool. They had the works there. And it had been closed for a while. And when Cornell coming down, being in the entertainment business, and he finds some backers, we opened it back up.
Who were some of the recording acts or musicians that came
Oh
through
my,
there?
name it.
James Brown?
Oh Lord, James Brown, though. See, James Brown was a regular, because he was over in Georgia. You have to understand, they wasn't that popular at that time, but I had an opportunity to meet everyone from James Brown to Little Richard to Gladys Knight, you name it, Marvin Gaye, Sam Cooke. I met them all because we started an after party. They would come to the auditorium, and what we would do is we would open up for an after party because we'd let the entertainers in free, and we'd have the cooks cook for them, and we'd set up cocktails for them. So it was a great time. I think the only person I didn't meet during that era in person was Diana Ross. But the Supremes I did. She just didn't come in. She was popular, I guess, and I'll leave it at that.
Yes, ma'am. Describe life in the Southern Side community during those years, from when you were growing up to then after you had become a businesswoman. How did the community come together? Did they neighbor help a neighbor?
Well, growing up in the Southern Side, which actually was integrated even during segregative time, because you would have blacks living in one block and whites in the other, and sometimes they lived on one side or the other. And we, as I said, we walked to school. And a thing that I really wish would happen now is that more people would sit on their porches as the children walked to school and from school. We knew we couldn't show out. That's what the word was coming up. So what we did, we knew no matter who, whether it was black or white, we'd better have our manners in store and intact. Matter of fact, we used to walk by the stockade. The stockade is at the corner of Mulberry and Hudson. It was. And that was a women prison. And we used to laugh because they did their laundries on Monday and they would hang them out on top of the stockade to dry. But the ladies would always say, stay in school because you don't want to be where we are. So, and people, I learned that people encourage you when you didn't know you were being encouraged also.
So if I remember talking about the stockade, it was almost right beside Mayberry Park.
Well, it was at the corner, right across the street from Tabernacle Baptist Church, which would be A.J. Wittenberg parking lot now. Yeah.
So how did Mayberry Park factor into your childhood, Mayberry and Meadowbrook?
Well, if you was black, that was the only place you had to go. So if you had recreation, that was it. The school played baseball there, and it was just a part of life. We didn't even know that we were living and playing in such unhealthy environment. Sometimes people say, but they displaced people. No one ever lived on Mayberry Street because, number one, it was a dumping ground. You name it. The only good spot and recreation for individuals of my color was Mayberry Park.
Did you ever go to Mayberry Park Community Center, or as I have learned, it was called the Canteen?
Well, Canteen. As a matter of fact, one of my mentors was Miss Mary Dillard. She used to encourage me also. And again, like I said, all these things was embedded in me as a young girl and then as a young woman. I don't know, people saw something in me that I didn't know was in me.
So how did Ms. Dillard encourage you and work with you?
I think it's difficult to describe because at the time I didn't know it. She was just a great lady who not only looked out and encouraged me, that was part of who she were. She would say things you should or shouldn't do.
It's very supportive.
Very supportive.
At what point did you believe it was important to become a strong community activist or advocate for helping improve things?
There were people ahead of me that I learned from. And I used to go to meetings and I would take notes. And then I would talk with some of the ladies about the notes that I'd taken. Miss Lila Mae Brock was one of those people. And she always would say, "You going to city council?" And she didn't ask me to do things. She told me what I was going to do. So I was very manable. And I learned from them. Miss Thurkill, who had a little store there in Newtown, in West Washington, as you go into Cagle Street there, where Mountain View is, because that's where I came up. And Churchill was at Mountain View. And everyone from the pastor down would encourage young people. I remember I was one of the young people that was able to go to the Baptist convention to represent young people at Mountain View. And I would have people like Miss Brock and Miss Thurkill, Miss Waters, a lot of the ladies. That would encourage me. And Sister Thurkill always said, "I'm teaching you to be president of the BTU." So, but as you grow up, you have other interests. Your mind was entertainment interest.
I read somewhere that your mother instilled in you the desire to do something, to believe that if you want the change to come, you have to do that something.
You have to do something. And my mother had a saying she would always say to us, as young people, you complain about different things. And my mother would always say, just remember, the Lord will provide. So every time I would start to complain or be discouraged, she said, the Lord will provide. My mother was a very humble lady. She was a Christian. As a matter of fact, I put that scripture on her tomb. because it's something, it makes you find the God in you. And in order to be successful in anything, you got to have that personal relationship with God. That's where my foundation really is. It was then, I didn't know it, as a matter of fact. But that's one of the things that those ladies instilled in me, was that personal relationship with God.
Do you believe the experiences you had growing up in the southern side, from church to school to Mayberry Park and the canteen, influenced your life and helped guide you to becoming more active and engaged in making and affecting change?
Yes, it did. I remember we were at a retreat years and years ago now. And at the retreat, I was one of the oldest individuals. So we had a lot of young kids under us. And so they was charged with going into one of the sessions and coming back, and everybody had to report what it is they wanted to do or who it was they wanted to be like. And I remember this young lady, she was a girl. She must have been about maybe 8 or 10 years old. And she came back and she wanted to be the first one. She was just adamant about being the first one to report out. And she had drawn what was a picture of me, because they had the paper plates, and you draw what you would like to be when you grew up, or who you like to be like. And when she got herself drawing me, and she said, I want to be just like Miss Duckett when I grow up, I took a deeper look at myself, and I realized you have to be careful what you say and what you do among the children. And that was one of the things that was a life-changing effect for me, because I became more involved with seeing what it was that we could do for the children. And I started to encouraging them like I'd been encouraged. And it's awesome. They don't do that anymore. People do and say anything around the children. And then they'll wonder why they do crazy stuff. We have got to instill in the children those values, and they're not being done now.
I'm thinking along that time you started, as you said, becoming more aware of how to help the children. You started becoming a stronger advocate and establishing organizations like Within Reach as well as Southern Side Neighborhood in Action.
What was in reach was actually, I didn't establish that. It was a group effort, and we did it through the city. It was a grant. It was called the, well, they changed it so many times, but I was doing Bill Clinton days. And it was an alcohol and drug grant. And it was a $2 million grant. And they purchased the property at 813 Hampton Avenue. And there were 9 special emphasis neighborhoods that was part of that. So that just increased my
Profile.
advocacy. Yeah. And again, it wasn't me. It was the God in me. Even though I didn't know it at that time. But thanks be to God, I do know it now. And people should look beyond their outside and look at the inner side of themselves. You'd be surprised what you find.
What were some specific advocacy efforts during those years that you were able to advance?
Well, I was president of Within Reach we finally named it Within Reach. And I was president for quite some time. And I saw that most of the training seemed to have been going to the staff. And I'm like, oh no, we're not going to have that. So I sat down with the board and we talked about it. And I said, if we're going to do anything, and if we're going to help these communities to be revitalized and to grow, we have got to educate the people. So that's when we started having different retreats. And it was, it's a sad thing, but in those days, there were young people that had never been out of from that side of town. That's how rivalry started. That's how gangs started. So we connected the community together. As a matter of fact, we had, they never did this for that. I had told them, you should patent the communities with the hands like that. Everybody's using it now. But that started out Within Reach. But I've seen it reach across the nation.
That's a great name.
Oh, yes. Because the reason we had the 9 fingers, not quite interlocking, but reaching out to one another, is because we want everybody in the neighborhood to know whatever you're going through, all of us are within reach of each other to be an advocate and to help.
Great message. Did you see it start to really happen?
Yes.
In which ways?
Well, one of the things that happened, there was a lot of things that grew out of Within Reach in the grant. Like I said, we came up with this special emphasis neighborhoods, which they named them target neighborhoods. And I flipped on that one too. I said, I already know we're target. I don't like that name. It's a stimulant type thing that's not a healthy thing. It's not something to be proud of to say I'm a target. So they came up with special emphasis. And with that, again, we had programs in every neighborhood for children, for adults. There were after-school programs. There were programs that individuals could get their GED. There was job training that we worked with through other agencies to make sure that the people had that they needed to enhance the quality of life of themselves and of the community.
Did that start to get the attention of city leaders?
Oh, yeah. Because what we'll do, sometimes it had to be God and me. Old folks used to say, but she's brazen, and being a black woman and not taking no for answer from city, county, and state, it was a big thing. But again, it was a God in me, and I didn't understand it. So, one of the things we do, we would go to meetings. People don't go to meetings like they used to. And then they want to complain about what the city, the county, the school board, and all are doing. At that time, Ms. Brooks started us going to city council. So it became a habit with me. I'd go to city council, and sometime if it was an issue in whatever community, and we were within reach of one another, we'd pack city council out, and they would go, oh, Lord. I remember when they was bringing Pete Hollis through here. I think Bob Lord, who was president of him just a few years ago of Hampton Pinckney, was one of the few whites that was an advocate along with us. And there were others, but I'm talking about right in the neighborhood. And we went to a hearing on it, and I was sitting up there, and I remember as if it was yesterday, we were talking about we didn't want Pete Hollis coming through.
Is that the highway?
Yes, yeah, that destroyed the southern side.
About what year was that? Do you know?
Oh, that was
Six.
No. Pete Hollis came through. Pete Hollis, this College Street turns into
Right.
Pete Hollis, Maybe that was it had to be sometime in the
Early 2000s.
early 2000s, very early 2000s.
So y'all made it clear that y'all didn't really want that to come through.
No, we didn't want it. We didn't want it. And so I had said in the meeting that, we're just not going to put up with this. And one of the representatives from, Senator Vernon, said to me, "Well, Miss Duckett, I'm going to tell you something." He said, "It's a done deal." He said, "So you can do one or two things. You can stay on the ground and stretch like a chicken, or you can come and fly with us in the air like an eagle." So I said, "I will never forget those words, Senator Vernon." I said, "Now let me tell you something." And you could hear a red walk of cotton. I said, "I'm glad you said that." I said, "This is what I want to say to you. I will no longer be a person that's picking up the crumbs from the table." I said, "I'm going to be sitting at the table with you, and I want a slice of the pie." So we were the first neighborhood to get the brick breakers in the city. If you go down Pete Hollis and turn on to Mulberry, you will see how the speed humps are. So he did that. There was to soften the blow. There was several areas that they wanted to block off and put them to a dead end, cul-de-sac them. They did it to Pinckney. And at one time they had plans to cul-de-sac everything, and we would have been bossed in. Sometimes, no, we're not going to have that. So we get together with you can show out with people's coming from 9 neighborhoods. That's a lot of votes. And the politician, don't want to lose any votes. So a lot of times that's how we got things done. It wasn't just me. It was a group of us.
But every group has to have a leader.
Well, I never knew how to accept the accolades that I have received because I wasn't doing it for me. I was doing it for the neighborhoods and for future generations.
With that thought in mind, all the history of both Mayberry and Meadowbrook Parks and the southern side and West Greenville and the other communities are truly the foundation of today's Unity Park.
Yes, it is.
What does it mean to you to know that all of your hard work that continues, but the countless hours of time and the energy, the meetings, all that you have done thus far, what does it mean to you to see something like Unity Park come to fruition?
It's a fantastic thing. The word unity It's the last 5 letters of community. And I always felt that this was truly, I remember stepping out the first day when they had the opening of Unity Mall, and I saw the crowd. And I thought, yeah, this is what heaven is going to look like. I incorporate my spiritual aspects in everything I say and do now. That's one thing I learned. And as I say again, I learned it from the ladies because I saw the God in them. And I wanted to be like these ladies. I wanted to make a difference. And I remember John Castile said one time in a city council meeting when someone was talking about what happened and who did what. And he said, well, I can tell you who've never asked for anything for themselves, and that was Mary Duckett. Because, here's the thing you got to understand. When my mother taught me that God will provide, He will. I understand that He'll never leave you and never forsake you, and He will supply all of your needs. So if you didn't get it, you didn't need it.
I hadn't really thought about it that way before.
Yes.
Was that coming along with all the challenges from, the changes in the neighborhood, to Pete Hollis Boulevard, to wanting cul-de-sacs and different things, closing off the neighborhoods? How did you continue to believe that He would provide?
Because, when you pray, God has a timeline for you. Don't quit. Don't give up. We used to march in the 60s, right? And we say, keep the faith, baby. We said it, but I didn't know what it truly meant. You got to keep your faith. Keep growing your faith every day. No weapons formed against you. They're going to prosper, but they're coming. You're going to have storms in your life. Some might be just a little drizzle. Some might be like Helena. But if you keep the faith, you'll make it through them all.
And I think I'll know the answer to this question, but what is the one thing you would say to young people today about the impact of your life growing up in the southern side and at that time?
They wouldn't make it. They wouldn't make it. Again, things were tough. But that's what it was. It was what it was. And the one thing we understood, we went to our school, we went to our churches, but we'd play together in different areas of the Reedy River. But that was it. I never thought it was a way of life, and this generation wouldn't survive it.
Why do you think that?
It's because of technology and what have you now. See, you did good if you got a calculator. You was a top dog with a calculator. You only had one TV. Some people didn't have a TV. I remember when Nat King Cole first started coming on TV, we were one of the people down West Washington had a TV, so my mother and them didn't know what I was doing, but I'd invite the kids in to watch Nat King Cole. And so I would take a dime from them.
Entrepreneur.
and give them 2 cookies and a little cup of punch that had been frozen. But it was good, It's amazing, when I look back over my life, sometimes I have to laugh. Yeah. That's what it was.
Getting an early start on
Oh,
your
yeah.
business
I was
skills.
very young when I did that. Very young.
Mhm. How do you hope your legacy of continuing to push to help change things for the better will help inspire today's young people or other people to know that change is possible?
Well, we have to realize change is going to come whether you're ready for them or not. And I say to the young people, and especially when I talk to them about education, I talk to them about jobs, and I talk to them about voting. And I say, don't wait until you're in the 12th grade to decide what you want to do. I tell them how important it is to volunteer. Whatsoever you are receiving now or benefiting for now, someone volunteered to get those in place for what you need now. You should vote. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. What I'm going to tell you is to vote for the person that have your best interest at heart. And I tell them, you need to work. Don't nobody's money spent like yours. And I encourage them. I try and encourage the children from babies up because they're so smart now. Babies coming out with the computer brain. So if I have a problem with my phone or my watch or whatever, I go get me one of them young people. Come here, baby. And vip, 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 they got it fixed. So I encourage them in that way. I encourage them to go to church. You need a foundation. You need a spiritual foundation as well as an education. Because if you don't have that God base from a child up, you're going to be in trouble. Because after I got out of the entertainment business, and within reach days, I went to work for the state. I was a counselor at Given Youth Center in Simpsonville. So it's amazing now. I was in Ingalls last week and ran into a young man who has to be in his 40s or maybe 50 now. And he said, "You Miss Duckett?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "How are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing." And I'm trying to know, where do I know this person from? And he said, "I was at Givens and you helped me." I said, "Oh, I get that all the time. Because I tried to encourage the young boys in Givens. They were there under the Youthful Offenders Act. And I would tell them, do you know the other young boys out on dates tonight? And you in jail. And you're trying to impress one another. So I would speak to them about encourage people. You never know what a smile, just a smile, can do for a person when they're having a bad day. That could be all they need to get them through the day. Never tear people down. Always try and build them up. Even when you know, oh my God, I'm going to pray about this one real hard. You should do that. And if we as elders don't do that, the generation coming behind the generation and the one behind that is not going to make it. So that's one of the reasons I said that the young people today would not have made it because it seems like no one wants to help the children. Every time I turn around, that's some young person missing. That's all young people's killing and all. People didn't have guns, well, they had guns, but you didn't catch people shooting and killing one another back in the day. If people's had a beef with one another, they duke it out. And that was that. So those are some of the ways I think we all should look at encouraging folks, young people.
Is that the hope and the sense you have with Unity Park?
Unity Park, yes. And I'm waiting on the tower. You know, we did the pathway to progress. Once we get the tower, someone else can take it from there. That's really a big dream of mine. I was glad to see Unity Park come about because it was such a horrible area, a rock throw from downtown, and it just should not have been. And it was time for an improvement. Oh man, listen, I used to stand at the corner with a couple of other people every Saturday morning advocating for A.J. Wittenberg. That was my baby. I went through 3 superintendents with that one. But the faith, God would let me put it down. Sometimes I said, I don't have to do this. I can do some other stuff. I can be traveling. And I did. And one time I took some time off and traveled. But I would be traveling, I'd be someplace, and I'd be like, well, I wonder what's happening, blah, blah, blah. And I just finally realized that I'm a seed planter. That's what God put me here for. And if I don't plant them seeds, He's going to beat me up. See, God will chastise you too. Yeah, oh yeah.
Are there any other memories or things you want to share with us about those years or even now, your hopes and dreams?
Well, my hope in Greenville is that as the communities have changed immensely, it hurts my feeling when I hear people say, oh, they're just moving in, moving us out. And it be some of the people that has moved in to be saying that. And I'm like, do you know you cut your own throat? So I pray that we all can get along in the neighborhoods. And I pray that Unity Park will be the showplace of all nationalities, all races, ethnicities, and whatever getting along together. And again, like I said, the tower, first responders, there were people who was against it. And I said to them, how could you be against something that's going to represent those that have fought for us in foreign countries, those that is on the street protecting us every day? And then when COVID came, I said to the group, I said, listen, Marion, you got to do something about the medical people because they put their life on the line and they became first responders. So I'll be happy. That'll be a great day. A great day. Paraphrasing one of the biblical saying, I believe it's, but I won't quote it. I'll quote it at the opening of the tower. But that's going to be a great day. You know, we have so many veterans now that are homeless. And you know, this is the heart of the Homeless Coalition. And it breaks my heart, and especially when it's cold, when it's raining, and I see these individuals out on the street. And someone said, well, all they do is beg for money to go to the liquor store and get some wine. So I said, I think we did Unseen Greenville. I did that just as my council battle. I was still with my council battle. And I said to them then, and I say it now, it could be you. It could be you. It could be any of us. Whether we believe it or not, I don't care how much money you have today. You're just one paycheck or 1 million away from being homeless. And when they beg for them nickels and dimes, if you got some change, give it to them. Because when they buy that wine, they get too false sensation from it. The sugar tell them that they're not hungry, and the alcohol tell them they are warm. So if your nickels and dimes can do that to help, most of them, like I said, have been part of the armed forces or whatever, do it. He said, because if you do it for the least of these, you did it unto me.